Imagine a city-state where jaywalking is basically a crime against society, littering gets you a fine faster than you can say "Xiao Liao," and even chewing gum comes with a set of rules. Sounds strict, right? But what if I told you Singapore isn't just strict for the sake of it, it's arguably the world's most responsible nation, and it's not just the laws doing the heavy lifting. The secret lies in its people, their habits, and a culture that values responsibility in ways most of us barely notice. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you're going to see why Singapore isn't just a clean city or a global finance hub, it's a living example of what collective responsibility can look like when it becomes a mindset rather than a rulebook. And trust me, some of the examples will actually make you question your own responsible habits. So let's kick things off with one of the most obvious signs of responsibility you'll notice the moment you step on Singaporean soil: cleanliness. Now, you might think, well, duh, there are fines everywhere, but it's more than that. It's cultural. Parents teach kids from day one not to litter, not because of the risk of a fine, but because it's about respect, respect for the environment, respect for other people, and honestly, respect for yourself. You'll see school programs where kids actively patrol their own classrooms for litter, and community initiatives where neighbors band together to clean up parks on weekends. And here's the kicker: it works. Singapore streets are cleaner than many cities that don't have half the enforcement power, simply because people genuinely buy into the idea that responsibility is part of being a citizen. And yes, while it's funny to see tourists panic about spitting on the wrong street corner, it's even more fascinating to see locals instinctively know how to navigate the rules without thinking twice. Speaking of which, have you ever noticed how people instinctively queue everywhere, from MRT stations to hawker stalls? That's not government mandated, that's social conditioning at its finest. If you've ever jumped a line in Singapore, you know the guilt is real, and the side eye is lethal. It's a small thing, but it's a massive signal of collective accountability. Now, let's talk about responsibility in a more high-stakes scenario: driving and traffic behavior. Singaporeans have some of the strictest traffic rules globally, yet traffic accidents are significantly lower than in neighboring countries. Why? Because it's not just the law, it's the mindset. Most drivers genuinely care about safety and rules. Motorcyclists wear helmets, cars don't hog lanes, and jaywalking isn't just frowned upon, it's socially unacceptable. Even more interesting, the government leverages technology to enforce responsibility without being oppressive. Think ERP systems for congestion pricing or the seamless, cashless parking setups. People follow them because the systems make responsibility convenient and visible. And here's a fun thought: all these rules create a sense of predictability, which paradoxically makes life freer. People can move about their day without constantly worrying that someone's going to break the rules in front of them. Curious how that works psychologically? Basically, when everyone else behaves responsibly, it lowers stress, builds trust, and encourages you to step up your own game. Of course, responsibility isn't just about following rules, it's also about civic participation. Singaporeans take public order seriously, not just in small ways but in the big picture too. Community centers, neighborhood watches, and even online platforms where people report hazards or share public concerns all feed into this ecosystem. One story that always gets me: a resident found a pothole near his block, reported it via the One Service app, and within 48 hours, it was fixed. No politics, no bureaucratic runaround, just a citizen taking responsibility and a system designed to respond efficiently. And here's the twist: this behavior isn't unique to Singaporeans because they have to do it, they do it because the social norm reinforces it. You get that subtle, almost invisible push to do the right thing because everyone else is doing it too. And honestly, doesn't that sound like a dream scenario for any country? Let's shift gears for a moment and talk environmental responsibility. Singapore is tiny, but the level of foresight here is huge. From water conservation to recycling and urban planning, the people actively participate in sustainability, sometimes without even thinking about it. Have you ever seen the colorful recycling bins labeled so precisely it feels like a quiz? People actually sort their waste, not because it's enforced with a fine, but because it's part of the national identity. And schools play a huge role in this. Students participate in garden projects, tree planting, and campaigns like Save Water or Green Week, which cultivate responsibility from a young age. The result? A society where people feel personally accountable for the collective good. And if you're wondering, yes, even tourists are caught up in this. You'll see them instinctively tossing recyclables into the correct bins, probably more obediently than at home, simply because the social cues are everywhere. Here's where it gets really interesting. Responsibility isn't just about what people do, but how they think. Singaporeans have a culture of planning and foresight baked into their daily lives. Need to see a doctor? You make an appointment online and actually show up on time. Filing taxes. Done early. MRT delays. Rare, and when they happen, the city handles them efficiently, and people are understanding rather than furious. This mindset is reinforced through education, media, and the simple fact that everyone around you operates at a high standard. And here's the kicker, you don't notice it until you leave Singapore. Step into a city where public responsibility isn't so ingrained, and suddenly, the contrast is glaring. People forget that it's a mix of social norms, government infrastructure, and personal ethics that keeps the city running like clockwork. And speaking of ethics, let's not ignore the subtle, day-to-day accountability that defines Singaporean life. From returning shopping carts at supermarkets to maintaining proper hygiene in public spaces, there's a constant thread of personal responsibility that doesn't need policing. Even during festivals or large public events, people show respect for crowd control, don't litter excessively, and follow instructions, not because someone is watching, but because it's socially ingrained. Think about it, in many countries, festivals are chaos. In Singapore, they're orderly, predictable, and yes, fun. It's responsibility as a habit, not a burden. And honestly, that's one of the reasons the city-state works so efficiently despite its small size and massive density. At this point, you might be wondering, okay, but isn't this just compliance out of fear of fines or social pressure? And here's where it gets subtle but brilliant. In Singapore, responsibility transcends fear. It becomes a part of identity. People want to do the right thing because they're proud of being part of a society that works. That pride fuels behavior in ways that mere enforcement cannot. And here's a small, funny observation. This is why locals sometimes get frustrated with visitors who break basic social rules. It's not snobbery, it's a cultural reflex. The system works so well that breaking it feels jarring, almost disrespectful. And if you've ever lived here or stayed long enough, you'll get that instinct too. It seeps into your own behavior, whether you want it or not. And it's not just the big stuff or the visible rules that matter. Responsibility in Singapore has a hidden, almost invisible layer. Digital accountability. From cashless payments to QR code check-ins during events, people's actions are logged and traceable, but instead of feeling oppressive, it encourages mindfulness. You don't just act responsibly because someone's watching, you do it because the ecosystem rewards it. It's like living in a feedback loop where doing the right thing feels natural, intuitive, and yes, kind of satisfying. And here's a little engagement point for you. Comment below if you've ever noticed yourself instinctively queuing or sorting trash while visiting Singapore. Trust me, it happens to almost everyone. If you found yourself thinking, I need to level up my own responsibility game, then you're already halfway there. And if you want to see another angle of how Singaporeans' habits make the city function like clockwork, check out our next video on why Singapore's public transport system runs like a Swiss watch, where we dive into the same culture of responsibility but through the lens of everyday commuting. Hit that video next, and I promise, some of the examples will blow your mind. Especially if you've ever been late for an MRT.